So today we're going to continue on talking about some things that I get asked about really frequently offline in the comment sections and things like that. I think this will be a really good informative video. I think you'll probably find this information really anywhere else as comprehensive as I'm going to do it. And so what that video today is going to be on is, can you guys choose your own MOS, language, group, and what type of ODA you go on? A lot of people are wondering how the whole process works, how you get the MOS you're going to get, what group you're going to go to, all those sorts of things. Okay, so we're just going to start top to bottom. So on how this all works, right? So can you choose all of those things? Okay, short answer is yes. Long answer is depends on where you're at in your career. Okay. So let's just start from the beginning and we'll talk about how you actually are going to get your first MOS, your language, things like that. Okay, so when you go to Special Forces Assessment and Selection, you are going to get a wish list. Okay, that wish list is going to be you ranking the top or your MOS that you want from 1 to 4. Okay, there's 4 primary MOSs: weapons, engineer, medic, commo. So you'll rank those from what you want the most to the least, okay? And then you're gonna put in the languages that you wanna learn the most as well. You're not gonna put any least on there because there's so many, right? I think it's top 3 or 4. I don't remember exactly what we did. It's been a long time. But so you're gonna get that wish list, all right? That doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna get what you want, but they are going to try to get everybody at least, one of their preferred MOSs and languages if they can, depending on numbers and the needs of the regiment and all that. Okay, so how do they actually determine that, what MOS you're actually going to get? Okay, well, a lot of it is based off of your GT scores, your ASVAB and GT scores, your intelligence scores, and your DLAB or your language aptitude scores. Okay, is going to determine. So your GT score is going to have a big effect on what MOS you get. Okay, the reality is guys who score very high, which would show a higher level of intelligence, most likely going to get 18 Delta or 18 Echo. Okay, they're far more technically difficult, book learning-esque type of MOSs to learn, especially 18 Delta, with an extra year of school you have to do. And then for your language, okay, same thing. If you have a very high DLAB score, then you're going to get one of the more difficult languages, be it Arabic, Chinese Mandarin, Russian, etc., right? If you're very low, you're going to get one of the easy languages, right? Tagalog or Spanish or one of the Cat 1 languages. Okay, that's just typically how it works. Again, it's not universal. I know guys that had terrible DLAB scores that got Arabic, and guys, that had really low GT scores that got 18 Delta, right? It's just kind of is what it is. They have to deal with figuring out numbers and all that sorts of stuff, okay? Whatever you get at this point, right? Let's say you make it, and you'll find out once you enter or once you get selected, you'll find out your MOS, right away, because it's important for the Q course, obviously. And then language, we found out a little bit later. We found out in MOS school about 6 months later. But you find out obviously in the course as well. And that's going to determine, your language obviously determines what group you're going to go to, okay? So if you get an Asian language, you're going to first group. If you get Spanish, you're going to 7th group, okay? There are some nuances. Russian, you could be a few different groups. Arabic, you can go to a few different groups, right? But for the most part, pretty much your language is tied to the group you are, because that's the region of the world you're going to be working in, okay? So once you are assigned those, that's what you got. There's no point really going and asking or changing. Now, you can get reclassed in the Q course. Most commonly, it's guys that wash out of the 18 Delta course. They're allowed to stay in the course that maybe go be an 18 Echo or whatever, okay? Very rare for somebody to fail out of the 18 Bravo course and be reclassed to an 18 Echo or something like that, okay? Much less likely, but it does happen, okay? So I wouldn't encourage that, right? Because you could very easily fail out of your MOS school and they'll just kick you out of the course. That happens more often than being reclassed, okay? So just assume you get what you get once you got it. That doesn't mean that there aren't times as you move forward in your career, especially once you get to group, that all these things can change, okay? There are scenarios and times where you can change. I've got buddies that have changed their MOSs, their languages, their groups, okay? And I'm going to tell you exactly the times you can do that and how you have to go about doing it to do it, okay? So once you're at group, right, and assume that you've been at group for a little while, you're initially, and also, okay, so now that we're at group, we'll talk about what team you're going to go to, and we're going to add that in, right? Whether it be a Halo team, dive team, mountain team, ruck team, ad nauseum goes on. There's a bunch of different kinds. It's really going to be, at this point in your career, you've just gotten a group, you're fresh out of the Q course, don't expect you're going to choose anything. You're not. It's going to be needs of the company, right? You're probably going to go to the B team initially. Whatever spot is open on whatever team that your MOS is, that's where you're probably going to go. For me, first company I got to, there was one spot open on an ODA for an 18 Echo. That was on a dive team. I went to a dive team, okay? So just assume you're going to go wherever, when you're new, you're going to go wherever you're told to go. Don't have any aspirations. And hopefully you get lucky, you go to a Halo team or the team you want. But also with that caveat, the dive team is always a team you can get to, even as a brand new guy. All you got to do, you get to the company, say you want to go to MAC, pass MAC, you're going to go to the dive team because nobody wants to be on the dive team. They're always trying to fill the dive team, okay? So that's the one exception to where if you want to be on the dive team, you pretty easily can go try to be on a dive team, even as a brand new guy, okay? So when can these things actually start to switch, okay? So whether it be your MOS, your language, your group, the team you're on, okay? Typically, it's going to be sort of towards the end of your initial first 3-ish, 4 years of team time, some opportunities might open, okay? The first one of that is on re-enlistment, okay? I do know some guys that have built into their re-enlistment contract, they wanted a reclass to a different MOS, right? So they were an 18 Charlie, they wanted to be an 18 Delta, or they were an 18 Delta, they wanted to be an 18 Charlie, whatever. You can potentially swing that, right? We had a couple guys in my MOS class when I was in the Q course that were prior different MOSs that actually were reclassing, okay? One of my old teammates reclassed from 18 Charlie to 18 Echo. So it's something you can potentially do there. And that's the specific time you're going to be able to do it, okay? The next one is going and doing a SWIC tour as an instructor, okay? This is really where guys manage to switch their groups and their languages, all right? How do they do that? Well, because when you leave, so let's say I leave first group to go to SWIC to be an instructor, I'm no longer part of first group. I'm part of SWIC, okay? So then I'm no longer, first group is no longer losing personnel at that point, right? Because I'm actually a part of a different organization or unit at this time. So if I want to go to a different group, that is the time where I can typically put in my request to say I want to go to 7th group now or 3rd group or whatever. More common if you want to stay at 3rd group, because SWIC and 3rd group are both in North Carolina at Fort Bragg. That's the name of the base. I'm not going to, whatever the new one is, Freedom or whatever. Anyway, Fort Bragg. And so it's pretty easy for guys to potentially switch. Now you have to test out in a target language typically that group needs, but it's not that difficult to do, okay? So that is a time I've seen quite a few guys actually be able to switch their groups. Now, if you were just in first group and were like, I want to go to 7th group, it's not going to happen for you. Unless, and we'll get into this next circumstance, which can happen, you actually have a valid reason, right? Family issues is a huge one, right? Guys who have health issues with kids or wives or whoever or whatever's going on. The regiment obviously will try to accommodate that and help you out and get you to a place that's going to be better for you and your family, okay? But just because you want to go live somewhere else, you're not switching groups. Unless you do it, like I said, maybe at the end of a SWIC tour is about the only time you're going to pull that off. Or you become a warrant officer, okay? It's actually very common for guys. And same way is because you're going to SWIC, right? To become a warrant officer, you can sort of switch groups on your way out, okay? So that's another one that you can do. And then last, right, we sort of talked about how and when you can actually change your MOS, change your language, change your groups. Getting the ODA that you want. Like, you really want to be on a Halo team, right? And so for me, that's kind of how it was for me, right? I did 3 years on a dive team, 2 years on a mountain team. Finally got to do my last 3 years on a Halo team of team time. how did I pull that off? It's at that point, guys, it's networking, right? You're a senior dude, you've been around a while. Probably some guys, this is how it worked for me, some guys that you used to work with, teammates, have taken team sergeant positions, okay? So for me, my senior 18 Delta on the dive team I was with, he took a team sergeant slot on a Halo team in Okinawa and recruited me to come fill a slot on his team. Okay, that's how I got the slot. It's networking, right? So just like everywhere else in the world, networking is everything. This is really the point where you can really sort of get on the team you want. If you've built a good reputation, and you can pretty often get it on the team you want once you're more of a senior guy, right? That's the reality of it. People are willing to send you to Halo school and things like that because you've actually been in the company 4 or 5 years or whatever. So hopefully that's fairly informative, right? Sorry it went a little bit long, but that should be a good detailed start to finish, how you get your MOS, like language, your group, when you can actually change them and things like that. So, all right, guys.